Dante Medici looks at his bare right hand. The skin is deeply indented, marked by decades of wearing the heavy gold signet ring. His fingers close slowly on empty air, searching for an anchor that is no longer there. The marble of the Palazzo Medici is freezing, but the air in his study is completely static. The heavy scent of library leather, damp cedar, and metallic cigar smoke hangs in the room like a warning. Hours earlier, kneeling at his dead son's grave, Dante had taken the ring off. It was his single moment of weekly vulnerability. A young woman had stepped from the shadows of the cemetery and taken it from the cold stone. She did not run. She slid the ancient crest onto her own finger and met his lethal gaze. The Medici ring never left the family bloodline. But when she stole it, the Mafia boss did not call his executioners. He called his generals to kneel before her. Stay loyal. This is Sinful Loyalty Stories. The skin on Dante's right ring finger is pale. A deep, permanent indentation circles the bone, a physical brand left by 20 years of carrying the heavy gold of the Medici crest. To the 5 families of the syndicate, that ring is a seal of absolute, terrifying authority. It is the metal that signs death warrants, authorizes the movement of illegal arms, and dictates the fate of politicians. It is the crown of the Florentine underworld. To Dante, it is a tombstone. 2 years ago, in a sterile room at Santa Maria Nuova, Dante sat beside a hospital bed. He watched his 4-year-old son burn from the inside out. As the lethal fever consumed the boy's final hours, Marco reached out. His tiny, burning fingers curled tightly around Dante's right hand. Marco did not hold his father's palm. The boy's small fingers locked entirely around the cold gold of the signet ring. Dante remembers the agonizing contrast. The terrifying, radiating heat of his dying son against the ancient, indifferent chill of the metal. For 3 hours, as Marco's breathing grew shallow and irregular, he held onto that ring. It was his anchor. It was the very last physical object the boy felt before his grip finally went slack, and he slipped into the dark. Since that night, Dante has never taken the ring off. It is the only bridge he has left to his son. It is a piece of metal that carries the ghost of Marco's final touch. Every time Dante rotates it, he is not calculating his next violent move. He is trying to feel the warmth of a small hand that no longer exists. There is only one exception. 1 hour a week where the Don of Florence removes his crown. Friday at dawn, the Santa Croce Cemetery. The heavy fog rolls off the freezing waters of the Arno River, crawling over the ancient, weathered statues of weeping angels. Dante leaves his armed guards at the iron gates. He walks alone through the mist, his dark charcoal coat absorbing the bitter cold. He stops at a small, simple marble headstone. He kneels in the damp earth. With slow, deliberate reverence, he slides the heavy gold ring off his finger. He places it gently on the freezing marble. In that single, quiet motion, Dante Medici ceases to be a monster. He sheds the armor of the syndicate. He strips away the blood, the wealth, and the terror of his name. For 60 minutes, he is nothing more than a father sitting in the ruins of his own heart. He stares at the ring resting on the stone. He speaks to the boy in the earth. He tells Marco about the quiet things, the changing of the seasons, the rain on the glass. He never speaks of the empire. The ring is the conduit. It is the sacred tether keeping his soul from completely shattering. And then, the tether was cut. It happened with the silent, terrifying suddenness of a blade in the dark. A shadow detached itself from the weeping angel in the adjacent plot. A hand, pale and steady, reached down and picked up the heavy gold ring from the marble headstone. Dante did not immediately feel the political insult of a Mafia don being robbed in broad daylight. He felt something infinitely worse. As the ring left the stone, a profound, suffocating void opened inside Dante's chest. The air in his lungs turned to ice. It was the exact, paralyzing horror he had felt in the hospital room when the heart monitor flatlined. The physical connection was gone. He was losing his son a second time. Any other cartel boss would have drawn the weapon concealed beneath his coat. They would have filled the cemetery with gunfire, reacting with the loud, chaotic panic of a wounded animal. They would have demanded their property back with violence. Dante Medici does not panic. He does not act on impulse. He remained kneeling on the damp earth. He looked at his bare, marked hand. Then, he slowly tilted his head up to look at the thief who had just stolen the only thing in the world he actually cared about. He expected to see a desperate junkie or a rival assassin. Instead, he saw a young woman. She was not running. She was not trembling. She simply stood over the grave of his son, slipping the absolute power of the Medici Empire onto her own finger. The heavy fog of the Santa Croce cemetery clings to the marble statues. Dante Medici remains kneeling on the damp earth. He looks at the bare skin of his right hand. Then, he looks up at the woman standing over his son's grave. She is young, perhaps 24. She wears a dark, tailored trench coat that blends seamlessly with the shadows of the mausoleums. On her right index finger, the heavy gold signet ring of the Medici Empire catches the dull morning light. The ring is far too large for her, but she holds her hand steady, ensuring it does not slip. In the underworld, men have been tortured for weeks simply for looking at that ring with too much ambition. She has stolen it from the tomb of a Don's dead son. Dante does not reach for the weapon inside his charcoal coat. He does not signal the guards waiting outside the iron gates. He slowly stands up. He is a towering figure, broad-shouldered and carved from suppressed violence. He casts a long shadow over her, bringing the heavy scent of damp cedar and cold cigar smoke into her immediate space. The physical intimidation he projects is usually enough to make seasoned cartel lieutenants drop their gaze. The young woman does not look away. She tilts her head up, meeting his tempestuous, dark eyes with absolute, chilling calm. "You are wearing my son's memory," Dante says. His voice is a low, vibrating hum that barely disturbs the fog, but carries the lethal weight of a falling blade. "You have exactly 10 seconds to tell me why you still have a pulse." She does not flinch at the threat. She does not offer a frantic, trembling apology. "Because if I asked for an audience at the Palazzo, your guards would have turned me away," she replies. Her voice is smooth, controlled, carrying an aristocratic cadence that feels entirely out of place in a graveyard. "And if I approached your convoy, Luca would have shot me before I reached the armor." Dante analyzes her face. He searches for the erratic twitch of a desperate thief or the hollow adrenaline of a hired assassin. He finds neither. Instead, he sees a terrifying, calculated depth. Her dark eyes hold a strategic coldness that Dante recognizes instantly. It is the exact same coldness he saw in the mirror 20 years ago when he was a young, ruthless heir plotting to take control of the Tuscan syndicate. She did not act on impulse. She engineered this moment. "You bypassed a perimeter of 40 armed men," Dante states, his tone shifting from pure threat to a dangerous, clinical curiosity. "You approached the Don of Florence while his back was turned. You stole the crest of his empire." "I did not bypass your men, Don Medici," she corrects him quietly. "You left them at the gate. You always leave them at the gate." Dante's jaw tightens. The bone threatens to crack under the pressure. "Your grief is a clock," she continues, her voice entirely devoid of pity. "Every Friday at dawn, you arrive at 6. You leave the armor behind. You walk to this exact stone, and you remove the ring. You built a fortress around your empire, but you left the back door completely open for the dead." The audacity of her words strikes Dante with the force of a physical blow. She is dissecting his deepest, most agonizing wound with the precision of a coroner. She has weaponized his mourning. "Who are you?" Dante asks, the air around him dropping 10 degrees. "My name is Julia," she says. She slowly raises her right hand, displaying the heavy gold ring. "And I did not come here for your money." Dante looks at the gold crest resting on her pale skin. The profound, sickening void in his chest aches for the physical connection to Marco. He wants to tear the ring from her hand, but the strategic machinery of his mind overpowers the grief. If she does not want money, and she did not come to assassinate him when he was entirely vulnerable, she has a different objective. She is holding his most sacred artifact hostage to force a conversation. "You studied my routine," Dante says softly. "You tracked my blind spots. You walked into a cemetery to hold a knife to my heart. Why? Julia steps closer to him. It is a microscopic movement, but it violates every rule of survival in Dante's world. She is placing herself entirely within his striking distance. Because while you are kneeling in the dirt, looking at the past, your empire is rotting in the present, Julia says, her dark eyes locking onto his. You are blind, Don Medici. Your grief has made you deaf to the whispers in your own house. The silence of the cemetery presses down on them. A crow calls in the distance, a harsh, sudden sound in the freezing fog. Dante rotates the thumb of his right hand over the empty, indented skin of his ring finger. The friction is missing. The anchor is gone. My house is made of iron, Dante whispers, a dark, gathering storm in his chest. Your house is bleeding. Julia counters immediately. Your captains are meeting in the shadows. They look at your weekly trips to this grave, and they do not see a father. They see a king who is ready to fall. They are preparing a coup. Dante stares at her. The revelation hangs in the cold morning air. Treason. It is the single most fatal word in the Italian syndicate. But to hear it from the mouth of a stranger, a young woman who had just effortlessly dismantled his personal security, changes the architecture of the threat. She is not warning him out of the goodness of her heart. In the Mafia, information is the most expensive currency. If my captains were plotting a coup, Luca would have their heads on my desk by midnight, Dante states, his voice flat, testing her intel. Luca is looking at rival families. Julia replies, a faint, razor-sharp smile touching her lips. He is looking at the borders. He is not looking at the men who pour your wine and kiss your hand. They have masked their communications. They are moving weapons through the northern ports using shipping codes your investigator does not have. She pauses, letting the weight of her knowledge sink in. But I have them, Julia says softly. Dante looks at the heavy gold ring on her finger. The ghost of his son's touch is currently wrapping around the skin of a master tactician. She had stolen his heart to prove he was vulnerable, and she was offering him the survival of his empire in exchange for his attention. Dante does not strike her. He does not summon his guards to drag her to the river. The anger in his blood cools, replaced by a dark, profound respect for the absolute brilliance of her trap. She had cornered the Lion of Florence without firing a single shot. You have 5 minutes, Dante commands, turning his back to his son's grave. He begins to walk toward the iron gates of the cemetery. Walk with me. If your proof is flawed, you will not leave the palazzo alive. And I will take my ring off your corpse. Julia does not hesitate. She lowers her hand and follows the dawn into the fog, carrying the crown of the underworld in her pocket. The heavy oak doors of Dante's private study close, sealing them inside. The air in the room is completely static. It feels as if time stopped the exact second the ring left the tombstone. The cold marble floor radiates a chill that creeps up the walls, but the atmosphere is dominated by Dante's heavy, intimidating scent, aged library leather, damp cedar, and the metallic trace of cold cigar smoke. Dante sits behind his massive mahogany desk. He does not offer Julia a chair. He looks down at his right hand resting on the dark wood. His thumb instinctively moves to rotate the gold signet ring. It meets bare, indented skin. The physical absence of the metal sends a violent, unnatural shockwave through his nervous system. It is a phantom limb, a missing piece of his dead son. He closes his fingers slowly, gripping empty air. The discipline required to not reach across the desk and crush her throat is absolute. He lets her keep the ring on her finger. It is a terrifying test of his own control. Lucas steps out of the shadows near the bookshelf. The investigator's eyes are fixed on Julia. He holds a thin, gray folder. He drops it onto the desk. She is a ghost, Don Dante, Lucas says, his voice a low, hostile hum. No official tax records. No registered addresses for the last 5 years. But she made one mistake. She used a private clinic in Milan for a fractured wrist 3 years ago. They took her blood. Dante does not open the folder. He keeps his dark, tempestuous eyes locked on Julia. And whose blood runs in her veins, Luca? Dante asks. Luca's jaw tightens. Vaccari. Her name is Julia Vaccari. The first wave of revelation hits the static air like a hammer. Vaccari. 5 years ago, Lorenzo Vaccari sat at Dante's right hand as his consigliere. He was a man of immense power until Dante uncovered his secret correspondence with the Sicilian cartels. Dante did not delegate the execution. He put the bullet in Lorenzo Vaccari's head himself, in the center of the Great Hall. Giulia is the illegitimate daughter of a dead traitor. The pieces fall into place. A blood feud. A daughter seeking revenge for a father executed by the dawn. It is the oldest, most predictable story in the Italian underworld. Dante's expression turns into a mask of pure, freezing iron. "You share the blood of a man I executed," Dante whispers. The sound is barely a breath, but it carries the weight of a loaded gun. "You walked into my son's graveyard to avenge a traitor." Giulia does not step back. She looks at the gray folder on the desk, then at Dante. A faint, razor-sharp smile touches her lips. It is not a smile of malice. It is a smile of supreme, calculating intellect. "My father was a fool, Don Medici," Giulia says. Her voice is a cool, steady current. "He let ambition blind his strategy. He let you catch him. I did not come here to avenge a man who is stupid enough to leave paper trails." Luca places a hand on his holstered weapon. The disrespect in her tone is a fatal offense. Dante raises a single finger, silencing his investigator immediately. "Then why are you standing in my sanctuary?" Dante asks. "Because while Luca was looking for my bloodline, he missed the rod in your own," Giulia replies. She steps forward. She ignores Luca's weapon. She reaches into the pocket of her tailored trench coat. She does not pull out a gun. She pulls out a small, encrypted flash drive and places it gently on the mahogany desk, right next to Dante's bare hand. The second wave crashes down. "3 of your top captains," Giulia says, her voice dropping into a clinical, rapid-fire cadence. "Moretti in the north, Silvestri at the docks, and Rossi in the financial district. For 6 months, they have been skimming exactly 4% from the shipping routes. They use a rotating cipher to hide the missing funds in your own ledgers." Luca scoffs. "Our ledgers are airtight. My men audit them weekly." Giulia doesn't even look at Luca. She keeps her eyes locked on the dawn. "Your men look at the numbers, Luca. They do not look at the transit times," she counters effortlessly. "Moretti delays the shipments by 2 hours at the border. Silvestri logs the cargo as damaged. Rossi funnels the insurance payouts into offshore accounts in Cyprus. They are using your money to buy private muscle from the Albanian syndicates." The study falls dead silent. Dante looks at the flash drive. A chill, far colder than the marble floor, settles into his bones. He knows she is telling the truth. The microscopic anomalies in the transit times. The slight arrogance in Moretti's posture during the last council meeting. The pieces were there, buried under mountains of data. Dante had missed them because his eyes were constantly drifting toward the silver frames on his desk, toward the memory of Marco. His grief had created a blind spot, and his captains were moving in for the kill. It took his entire intelligence network months to find nothing. It took the illegitimate daughter of a traitor a matter of weeks to dismantle a coup. Her mind is not just sharp. It is a lethal, flawless machine. She possesses a strategic architecture superior to any soldier in Dante's army. Dante looks up from the flash drive. He looks at Giulia's hand. The heavy gold signet ring still rests on her finger. She did not steal it for money. She did not steal it for revenge. She stole the crown of the Medici Empire to prove she was the only one smart enough to protect it. Dante leans back in his heavy leather chair. The phantom void on his ring finger throbs. "You have the names," Dante says softly. The anger in his blood cools into a terrifying, absolute focus. "You have the proof. You could have sold this to the Sicilians. You could have let my captains kill me. I have no interest in watching fools tear down a masterpiece," Giulia replies quietly. "I want a seat at your table." Dante stares at her. The weight of a storm is gathering in the room, preparing to fall upon the traitors who thought the Lion of Florence was asleep. Dante Medici plugs the encrypted flash drive into the secure terminal on his mahogany desk. The screen flares to life, casting a pale, clinical blue glow across his angular face. The study remains completely static, the heavy scent of damp cedar and cold cigar smoke suspended in the air. He does not ask Luca to verify the data. Dante reads the architecture of the betrayal himself. It takes him exactly 60 seconds to see the truth. The numbers align flawlessly. The rotating ciphers, the delayed transit logs at the northern border, the offshore accounts in Cyprus. Moretti, Silvestri, Rossi. 3 of his most trusted captains. 3 men who had kissed his cheek and drank his wine. They were bleeding his empire dry to fund an Albanian strike team. Luca reads the screen over Dante's shoulder. The investigator goes entirely rigid. The blood drains from his face as he realizes the magnitude of his own intelligence failure. Dante pulls the flash drive out. He places it exactly in the center of the leather blotter. He looks down at his right hand. His thumb slowly rubs the deep, bare indentation on his ring finger. The phantom ache of the gold is a violent distraction, but his mind is completely clear. The fog of his 2-year mourning has been incinerated by the brutal light of reality. "You possess the ledgers," Dante says, his voice a low, mechanical hum. He looks across the desk at Julia. "You could have intercepted my convoy. You could have sent this drive through a secure courier. Why the cemetery? Why the ring?" Julia stands perfectly still. The oversized gold crest of the Medici family gleams on her pale index finger. "Because a king in mourning is a king asleep," Julia answers, her dark eyes locking onto his. "If I sent a courier, Luca would have vetted the drive for 3 days. The Albanian strike team crosses the Tuscan border tonight, Don Medici. In 3 days, you would be a memory." She points directly at his bare hand. "I had to bypass your guards and take the only object you feel every single second of the day," Julia says softly, the absolute brilliance of her strategy laying bare in the quiet room. "I had to inflict a pain sharp enough to break you out of your trance. I had to prove that if I could reach through your defenses and touch your dead son's ring, your captains could touch your throat." The revelation strikes the room with the force of a physical blow. Dante stares at the empty space on his finger. For 2 years, he believed he was honoring Marco by carrying the ring in silent, untouchable sorrow. But his grief had become a fortress with no guards on the wall. He had been so focused on the ghost of his child that he had allowed traitors to dig a grave for his empire. Julia had not just stolen a piece of gold. She had stolen his blindness. Dante looks up at her. He sees the illegitimate daughter of a traitor. He sees a 24-year-old civilian in a damp trench coat. But more than that, he sees a tactical genius who just outmaneuvered the entire Florentine underworld and his own internal security without firing a single bullet. She possesses the exact, ruthless clarity he had when he first took the throne. He leans back in his heavy leather chair. He does not demand the ring back. The silence that settles over the study is no longer the quiet of a tomb. It is the crushing, suffocating weight of a storm about to break over the traitors who thought the Lion of Florence was dead. "Luca," Dante whispers. The word is a signed death warrant. "Yes, Don," Luca replies, his voice tight with the absolute shame of his failure. "Summon Moretti, Silvestri, and Rossi to the Great Hall immediately. Tell them we are restructuring the northern ports," Dante commands smoothly. His tone is entirely devoid of anger. It is the voice of a butcher sharpening a blade. "Tell them to come alone." Luca nods and vanishes into the dark corridor. Dante stands up from the desk. His towering frame casts a long shadow across the cold marble floor. He looks at Julia. He looks at the heavy gold ring on her right hand. "Keep the ring on," Dante says. Dante Medici plugs the encrypted flash drive into the secure terminal on his mahogany desk. The screen flares to life, casting a pale, clinical blue glow across his angular face. The study remains completely static, the heavy scent of damp cedar and cold cigar smoke suspended in the air. He does not ask Luca to verify the data. Dante reads the architecture of the betrayal himself. It takes him exactly 60 seconds to see the truth. The numbers align flawlessly. The rotating ciphers, the delayed transit logs at the northern border, the offshore accounts in Cyprus. Moretti, Silvestri, Rossi. 3 of his most trusted captains. 3 men who had kissed his cheek and drank his wine. They were bleeding his empire dry to fund an Albanian strike team. Luca reads the screen over Dante's shoulder. The investigator goes entirely rigid. The blood drains from his face as he realizes the magnitude of his own intelligence failure. Dante pulls the flash drive out. He places it exactly in the center of the leather blotter. He looks down at his right hand. His thumb slowly rubs the deep, bare indentation on his ring finger. The phantom ache of the gold is a violent distraction, but his mind is completely clear. The fog of his 2-year mourning has been incinerated by the brutal light of reality. "You possess the ledgers," Dante says, his voice a low, mechanical hum. He looks across the desk at Julia. "You could have intercepted my convoy. You could have sent this drive through a secure courier. Why the cemetery? Why the ring?" Julia stands perfectly still. The oversized gold crest of the Medici family gleams on her pale index finger. "Because a king in mourning is a king asleep," Julia answers, her dark eyes locking onto his. "If I sent a courier, Luca would have vetted the drive for 3 days. The Albanian strike team crosses the Tuscan border tonight, Don Medici. In 3 days, you would be a memory." She points directly at his bare hand. "I had to bypass your guards and take the only object you feel every single second of the day," Julia says softly, the absolute brilliance of her strategy laying bare in the quiet room. "I had to inflict a pain sharp enough to break you out of your trance. I had to prove that if I could reach through your defenses and touch your dead son's ring, your captains could touch your throat." The revelation strikes the room with the force of a physical blow. Dante stares at the empty space on his finger. For 2 years, he believed he was honoring Marco by carrying the ring in silent, untouchable sorrow. But his grief had become a fortress, with no guards on the wall. He had been so focused on the ghost of his child that he had allowed traitors to dig a grave for his empire. Julia had not just stolen a piece of gold. She had stolen his blindness. Dante looks up at her. He sees the illegitimate daughter of a traitor. He sees a 24-year-old civilian in a damp trench coat. But more than that, he sees a tactical genius who just outmaneuvered the entire Florentine underworld and his own internal security without firing a single bullet. She possesses the exact, ruthless clarity he had when he first took the throne. He leans back in his heavy leather chair. He does not demand the ring back. The silence that settles over the study is no longer the quiet of a tomb. It is the crushing, suffocating weight of a storm about to break over the traitors who thought the Lion of Florence was dead. "Luca," Dante whispers. The word is a signed death warrant. "Yes, Don," Luca replies, his voice tight with the absolute shame of his failure. "Summon Moretti, Silvestri, and Rossi to the Great Hall immediately. Tell them we are restructuring the northern ports," Dante commands smoothly. His tone is entirely devoid of anger. It is the voice of a butcher sharpening a blade. "Tell them to come alone." Luca nods and vanishes into the dark corridor. Dante stands up from the desk. His towering frame casts a long shadow across the cold marble floor. He looks at Julia. He looks at the heavy gold ring on her right hand. "Keep the ring on," Dante says. The Great Hall is empty. The bodies have been cleared. The scent of copper and cold cigar smoke lingers in the amber light. Dante Medici stands by the obsidian table. Julia stands beside him. She is no longer a ghost in a damp trench coat. She is a dawn. In the underworld, men worship bloodlines. They believe absolute power is passed through DNA. But blood can rot, as Moretti proved. Blood can betray, as Julia's father did. Dante looks at the young woman and realizes a profound truth. The true heir to an empire is not born. They are forged in audacity. Julia looks down at her hand. She proved her point. She woke the king, dismantled a coup, and took a kingdom without firing a weapon. She does not need a stolen crown to rule the north. With slow, deliberate grace, she slides the heavy gold signet ring off her pale finger. She holds it out to Dante. He takes it. The cold metal slides back over his scarred skin, settling perfectly into the permanent indentation on his hand. The phantom ache of his son's touch returns, but the empire is no longer bleeding. "You earned your seat," Dante says quietly, his dark eyes locking onto hers. I took it. Julia corrects him, a faint, razor-sharp smile touching her lips. Power is not inherited. It is taken by those with courage. If you are loyal to intellect, subscribe to the Empire. Stay loyal.